Hello, everybody, and welcome to our March episode of Scripting the Book. Today, we're going to talk about Percy Jackson and the Olympians, which I'm really excited for. A lot of this is a read that's a way back for some of us. So I'm going to let my fabulous co-host and our guest host, Morgan, introduce themselves. We're going to start with Natalie, and we'll swing it on around.
Hello, everyone. I'm Natalie Locke. I am one half of Flash Fiction Live, as well as one half of the book that is coming out this June, prompt book called 1,000 Words to Get Started. And my other cohort is Chandra Arthur. And yeah, we're just into antics, really. We do everything you're not supposed to, such as critique a first draft right after you write it publicly. So it's fine. It's fine. But definitely a big advocate of Flash Fiction on my channel, as well as you'll see reading content on my Instagram.
And hello, everyone. My name is Morgan Lee. I'm an indie author of 2 books, the first 2 in a dark fantasy trilogy. I have a YouTube channel where sometimes I post videos on things. I'm part of the Writers Room with Barrett and Tiffany, and the Self-Publishing Tips and Tricks podcast with Ben and Shannon, and also part of the Author 2 Poetry Open Mic with JC Carpenter. So that's me.
And I'm Ben Pick. Every Monday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, I host my YouTube channel where I give questionable writing advice through writing metaphors. Also on Self-Publishing Tips and Tricks with Morgan and Shannon, as well as this Scripting the Book. And my latest book, Saving the Lost, is coming out at the end of this month, so you can pre-order it now. And I'll be having a live stream book launch party on Saturday, March 30th at noon. So come hang out.
Awesome. And you're here on my channel. I'm Nia, the Vixen of Fiction, all over the internet. I host live streams on Tuesday nights, and I'm also over on Twitch in the middle of the day on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I have a cozy romance short story series coming out beginning at the end of this month. And yeah, I write things and I draw things. So come hang out sometime. Today, we are going to talk about Percy Jackson. And I see Angela, hello, is going to hang out with us live. If you are watching on the replay, which is where we get most of our watches with us, if you have any comments, leave them down in the description or down in the comment section, and I will get back to you. And if you have some book suggestions, you could go ahead and leave us a comment down below, and we'll probably add it to our ever-growing list of book adaptations. All right, so we are going to start with anybody. Okay, so have there been any DNFs? Everybody has read the book. Any DNFs on this one? Awesome. Let's go ahead and do our dislike, neutral, like, and love. Any dislikes on Percy Jackson, the first book? Neutrals. Likes. And any loves? Yeah, awesome.
I feel like this is the first time Ben has been solo love.
I know.
Like usually it's like the solo neutral like.
All right, so let's go ahead. Since Ben is our outlier, why do we love it? Why do we love it, Ben? Oh, muted.
Thank you. So this has everything that I really want. It's, a young adult story. So obviously I'm not necessarily in the target market, but it still has enough for a grown adult to enjoy. It tells a story so well, and it tells such a fundamental story that it's obvious to me how this spawned all of Rick Riordan, the series. So you have Percy Jackson, you have Jason, the series that comes after this that's about the Romans, and then you have Magnus Chase and like all these other genres, the ancient Egyptian gods as well. So you have this entire monumental epic series, and it all starts with this book, and I can clearly see why. It's not perfect by any means, but it does so much so well, and it tells it in such a concise story. And in some ways, it reminded me of, Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, where it's like, hey, we're going to this specific city and we're going to see this, we're going to go to St. Louis and we'll see the arches. And this is why that's important. And, my mother, Athena, was the one who helped design this. And this is what it means. And this, that, and the other thing. So it kind of blends both real world monuments, real world locations with fantasy.
Nice. All right. And I want to ask, how old were you when you first read this one?
Probably too old. That is a good question. When did the series come out? Because I think I read it when it came out, but I'm pretty sure I was already past college at that point. Sorry, I'm Googling this really quickly. 2005. Okay, so I was in college when it came out.
All right.
Yeah, 2005.
All right. Very cool. And then we'll head on over to our guest today, Morgan. Why were you alike? And also, when did you first read this one?
My dog is barking. I'm sorry.
Oh.
So I just read this year. This was my first time reading it was in January, and I wanted to read it because the show was coming out, and I wanted to watch the show. I never seen the movie, and I never had picked up the book.
Simba has thoughts. It's fine. It's fine.
Sorry. What was I saying? So yeah, I read it for the first time this year. I was alike, because I don't know. I feel like it takes a lot for me to give I love this book 5-star kind of reviews. So I thought it was really enjoyable. I listened to it on audiobook, and I think I read it pretty quickly. I just liked the story. I liked all of the characters. I liked the Greek gods and the mythology behind it. And then, yeah, I don't know. It was a really entertaining story, and I just want to continue. I'm going to continue the rest of the series as well. But yeah, it was really good. I liked it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Natalie, you were alike as well?
Fucking God. Yeah, I remember liking this book. I can't remember if I read it in high school or college, because 2005, to show my age, was 2 years before I graduated high school. Can't really remember. I just remember reading it. I enjoyed it, because I think at that time I was definitely going through a phase of all this lore and stuff of Norwegian, Greek, Roman, all of it, especially Egyptian too. So I think I liked that aspect of it. It was difficult for me reading about kids, but I think that's just my mindset at the time of thinking, oh, it's a kid's book, and I want to say I read it in secret. But luckily I've grown since then, and now I read kids' books openly and go and say, what you gonna do? So
that's right.
Maybe it helped me break out of that shell a little bit, because it was still a good book despite being about kids. Not saying despite. It helped change my mindset from when I was there. So maybe that's why it holds a special place for me.
Yeah. This one was definitely a like for me. I will not say how old I was, but I will say I had kids when I was in my first kid when I was in my early 20s. And so this is definitely one that I remember reading, and I was like, oh yeah, he'll like this one, and gave it to him. And as predicted, he did quite enjoy it. So yeah, that was probably around the late 2000s, maybe 2008 or 9 when I first read it. And I think there were already a couple of the books out at that point. So I knew he'd have something that he'd be able to read right after. And then consequently, all of my kids after that have also read it. And I know that I liked it because I liked it enough that I wanted to actually read the next one. So, and I think I've only read 2 of them. So I need to go back and read the whole series and some more of his stuff. And it's not because I didn't like them anymore. It's just that there's so many things to read and I had 4 kids at the same time. So, you know, I read what I could when I could. But I remember enjoying it enough that, oh yeah, this is definitely one he's gonna like, and handing it over and him enjoying it and being able to talk about it with him. So yeah. So getting into it a little bit without giving away too many spoilers, it felt like one of the things that we both like, that he didn't like about some of the other book series that I had given, like I had given him Aragon as well. He liked that Aragon was a bigger book, but he said after a couple of the books, it just felt like they were going around in circles, kind of, and it just was dragging on. And with these, he said it was always the next adventure, and a lot of mini adventures in one small book. You know what I mean? So it's like as soon as you're done, basically you're done with one monster pops up, you're on to the next and on to the next, all the way to the end. So it captured his imagination, mine too. And so able to keep it going all the way until the end. And then he does say, like, mention the time passes, like, so now it's the end of summer or something like that. He'll say like 2 weeks later or something. So you get how much time is passing by in the books. So that was really good. I think Rick Riordan did a really good job making a book that's going to really hold your attention to the end. So definitely a like for me. Easy.
It's almost like he was already catering to a society that wanted instant gratification, keep me entertained, anything.
Yep.
But also, I was just thinking about timeline, because I also read Aragon, I want to say around the same period. It was usually, it kind of started back then, right when a movie was about to come out, is when I'm like, oh, that's a book, go read it. Yeah. And I want to say that's what happened. And then also my mom recommended, because she likes fantasy more than I do. And so she was recommending Aragon, read that. Percy Jackson, read that. And then, of course, Harry Potter. Like, my mom actually tried to read that to me when I was 10. And I was like, this is boring. God, stop. And then later I actually read it. So, little fact about me. It's got to be my idea for me to read it.
So
Yeah.
I do want to say that this book is fantastic, but it does have a lot of repetition as the series goes on. So a lot of the mechanics that are used in this story get diminishing returns the more and more we go through, which is why it's so cool with what Rick Riordan does, in that he hands off his work to other authors. So you have different people doing their own takes on different gods that all sort of mold together into this overarching, world.
Oh, that's good to know, because I've only read the first 2, so that's good to know. Because
Well,
I
yeah.
do wonder sometimes, how do you when you've got like 5 mini adventures in one small book, how do you keep that going without that Aragon effect happening?
So I do like how the characters evolve. We're going way, way, way into it, but I also, one of the things I really hate is like when a prophecy drives the story, and there are certain books in this series where there is no plot except for the prophecy. And you know, the prophecy, because it's Greek, there's inherently deception in it. So it's intentionally misleading. And if you read enough by the time you get to those books in the series, you're like, oh, I see what the twist is going to be. But here, it didn't really catch me, because this is my first experience with Rick Riordan, and I wasn't thinking about the double context of everything that's written in the prophecies.
Yeah, because I feel like in the first book, that is one of the things that's done really well, is that they set a lot of stuff up, and then he gets the prophecy, so you kind of are like, which one? You could see where it could be that person, could how prophecies go. You're like, what's gonna be? That there's gonna be a catch, but you're like, what is that catch? And then when you get to the end, and you're like, oh, yep, there it is. So I feel like that was done well. So it does feel like you're going to catch on to that more as you go on into the series. So you've read the whole series. Would you recommend?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
And so if you think about it in like groups, so you have the Percy Jackson series, that's 5 books, I think, and then you have the it's Jason something, but the Roman series. It's another 5 books, and like that series builds off of this one. And sorry, we are going way off topic, but it really takes. It does some incredibly creative things, and there are some fantastic storytelling elements. And I think it's the penultimate book in the Jason series feels like it feels like a culmination of the 8 books that have been preceding it, and it's so emotional in it that I was like, wow, this is some fantastic storytelling. So,
Oh wow. Okay, so I think I'm gonna add all of these to my TBR then.
or if you don't have enough time for that, just get them on audiobook.
That's true too.
There's a huge backup in the library. I think when we figured this one out, I think I put it into my local library for the audiobook for Sea of Monsters, and I think it was like 17 weeks, so I'm about halfway through that now.
My goodness.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
No.
Well, hey, at least we're planning ahead now for when season 2 comes out.
Yeah, so be ready. Okay, so I might have to be using up some Audible credits for I have a couple of audiobook subscriptions, so I'll see who I've got more credits with. Might have to work that out. All right, so anybody have any more thoughts on the book? And then we'll move on to the movie, because I do want to get into, I want to get into all the spoiler stuff, because the non-spoiler part is hard.
I think it's definitely age appropriate. I will say that, but it's entertaining like other books we've read, like Neil Gaiman. I think we did Coraline, like that whole, it's age appropriate. Coraline maybe not so much because we talked about the scary aspect.
Oh, scary.
But,
oh my God.
The book, it's great for kids like 10. Pretty much if they can read at that level, let them, is my input and everything, unless you're against mythology and stuff for different reasons. Totally understand that, but that kind of going into it, it's kind of in the title of Percy Jackson and the Olympians. It's like the whole theory. So either way,
I felt like it was definitely age appropriate. Like I said, I gave it to my older son, who maybe was 9 or 10 at the time, and then all of the other kids were like, read it, we're ready to read them. So nobody was like terrified or anything like that. Nobody was traumatized. It does get intense because you are going through one trial after another. But they all seem to just like kind of like roll with it. They all enjoyed it. So
it can make it kind of episodic, but there is still an overarching problem that they're trying to solve, and each trial gets them closer to the answer.
Yeah. So if you've got a kid who's got like portions of time that they can read, this is a good one where they could read where he starts out at his regular school, then where he goes to the camp, then he goes to the first trial, the next trial. So they can literally break it down, if you've got like some time limits, like they're reading before bed or they're reading on a break or something like that. And especially if you're doing some sort of reward system where hurry up and finish this so you can do, and you get to read like 15 minutes, if you hurry, that's a good one where they can read a good chunk and then like save some for another time. So any other thoughts on this one before we move on to the show? Nope. All right, does anyone want to talk about the movie, or do we want to save that?
Okay. I didn't see it.
Okay,
we can save that one for the
I heard it was bad and I didn't want to see it.
Yeah. You may not want to. Okay. All right. So on the show, we'll go to the show. Everybody watched it. Nobody like stopped watching in the middle. Okay. Any dislikes on the show? Neutral. Like? Love? I'm between a like and a love.
Yeah.
It was like to love on this one. It was excellent. So let's let Morgan, and you're our guest. Let's let you kick it off. Why did we love it so much?
Okay. Let me gather my thoughts. Okay. I Okay. Sorry. Didn't know I was going to go first. Okay. So for me, I liked the casting. I liked the kids. I liked the acting on the show. It felt very, I guess appropriate's the right word. It was very I think they all did a really great job. The kids and the adults and the acting and the cast. I think they did a really good job. I liked the effects and is it CGI? I don't know. The effects, the
Yeah.
overall like effects and everything. Let me see. It was very entertaining. It was I don't know. I'm very bad at articulating right now.
Did you binge it or were you able to break it down?
I kind of broke it down. I binged like the first, because I was watching it with my husband and then he kept watching it after I fell asleep. So then I only stopped on like episode 4 and then I had to watch the rest of it. So I watched the first 4 and then I watched the last 4. And so yes, very bingeable. And yeah, I don't know. It was just really good.
Who wants to go next? Go ahead, Nat.
For me, it was the comedic elements sprinkled throughout, like just like good zingers and stuff. I can't even remember them, but I remember laughing like and stuff. Like I want to say there was a moment with Medusa where I'm like, really? And so like well-placed humor is what really sells me, and especially when it's action and drama a little bit. I'm like, come on, life is funny. Okay, we can sprinkle some humor in there still. And so that helped ground it for me to make it more believable and such. There was, and I will say on the no spoilers or anything, but on the changes made, it made sense to me. Like I felt it was well done. And so the fact that you can still get to from point A to point B and with changes that make logical sense, I'm happy. I still see them as two different media, so I try not to compare them to each other too much.
Yeah. All right. How about you, Ben?
Yeah, so again, without getting into spoilers, I like the creative liberties that the show decided to take. I know this might be a controversial stance, but I think that the things that they added, which weren't in the book, added more to the overall story that they were telling. So they had a Cliff Notes. They had to streamline certain events, and the way that they did that came off pretty well. I really did like a lot of the actors. I'm not the biggest fans of certain moments. At the same time, though, for the child actors that they actually hired, unlike the movie, taking some things at that. They came off as kids. You know, we already made the Harry Potter comparison. It was movie 1 where they're actually 11-year-olds portraying 11-year-olds, or more or less 11-year-olds portraying more 11-year-olds. So they're acting like they should. They look like they should. They clearly aren't, adults in trying to do whatever. We'll talk about the movie when we get there. But the point is that it felt real. It felt like they were, kids off on an adventure, and that momentum carried through for the entire series. So even when there were some missteps, it was just fun to watch.
Yeah. Yeah. It was definitely fun to watch. This is one I watched with my kids, and they were skeptical about watching because they had experiences with the movies. So we're like, no, I've got to watch it. So if you guys want to watch it with me, everybody was glad that they watched it, and everybody continued on and watched the rest of the series. It was definitely entertaining. I enjoyed I enjoyed all of the kids. There are a lot of the actors that they went with, and I was like, oh, good choice. I liked a lot of the actors. Maybe not all of them, but enough of them that I was, when they made their cameos or whatever, or for their episodes, a lot of them I was like, oh, I know who that is. You get that, and you want to see how they're gonna do in that role. So I enjoyed pretty much most of them in their role as the god or half god that they played. And it was good to see some of them in familiar roles. The guy who played Percy Jackson's father, I'd seen him playing a father figure in Lost in Space, and so I get used to seeing him in that role. And at first, you're like, oh, he's going to be the bad dad who ignores his kid, and then no, he comes off as very loving in the show and just doing what he has to do. And don't want to spoil too much, but you get to the end and you're like, yes, dad.
Yeah, I had tears in my eyes in that scene. I don't know why. I was just like, this is so sweet.
Yeah. So it was definitely good all the way through the end. I ended up binging it without the rest of my family because I didn't want to wait for family movie nights. And then I saved the last episode because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm already at the last episode. No.
Oh, that's like the epitome of willpower. Is when you're like, join me. I won't press play yet, but I can't tell how much longer I can last.
Yes. And then you
like Alex has already told me I can't watch Bridgerton without him, so that added time.
Yeah. We do that a lot too. So it was hard, but I was like, oh, can you guys please hurry up and get caught up? So, which they did, but everybody's got work and school and all that.
By the way, did anybody watch the making of the Percy Jackson series? It's on Disney Plus, and it's really good. You get a good mindset of like what went into creating the worlds and the CGI and stuff, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did watch some interviews with the kids. You know how they always do the kids talk about what they had the most fun with, who's the funniest, who's the jokester, who's the most serious, who's the one most likely to get everybody out of a bad situation. So I watched those behind the scenes because it's nice to see, especially when you've got kids, to see how they interact with each other. And so you're like, okay, this jives. They really seem to be getting along and having a good time with each other. And then that kind of like enhances a little bit. It doesn't work when they don't get along behind the scenes and you're like, oh yeah. But in this case, they seem to like be having a great time. All the kids seem to get along and they had a lot of fun. So it was good to have that. So I did watch some of those, but I do need to go back and watch the making of because that sounds really interesting. So yeah, I really enjoyed, watching the show and seeing the kids do their thing. I liked the way it looked. Sometimes I think that the CGI gets a little video gamey looking with some of these shows, but this one it seemed all fine. And apparently I'm looking for the wrong things. Yeah, I look for the wrong things when it comes to CGI because sometimes people are like, that's great CGI. And I'm like, okay, that looks like a video game to me, but okay. And then other things I'll like, that looked fantastic. And they're like, no, you can see the this and then that. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what I'm looking for.
Nope, but I like it.
I just know what I like when I see it, I guess. So it all looked really, really good. I liked the way that they did the whole scenes with the arches, and I'm like, I'm with Percy, like I'm gonna get smashed into a million pieces if I let go from here and fall into the water. It's just not gonna work. So I'm like, it's not gonna work. Don't fall. I'm like, Mom, don't do that. So
the characters are developed well when you're trying to mom them.
Yeah. But I liked seeing the different characters. I liked what they did with Medusa, where she had the hat and the veil, and just a lot of the different things that they did. I was like,
that was an excellent new take, in my opinion. Like because you normally just see sunglasses or something. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. And I felt like it was fitting. I don't know why, because I feel like Medusa gets a bad rap anyway. So I thought it was fitting to have her looking very nice and lovely and with the fancy hat and all that stuff. And I like what they did with it. So it was definitely enjoyable. I could have probably, if I'd have had all night, binged the whole thing, but then I wouldn't have been functional for the next couple days. So I did pace myself, but I did watch in the week versus watching 2 episodes every other week waiting. Like, yeah. I think that we had the first 2 episodes and then we had to wait. And then as soon as there were like the next several episodes, I was like, I'm watching them all except for the last episode.
I caught up real quick and then I had to wait. And I'm like, at least I don't have commercials. That's all I can say.
That is true. So let's go ahead and first I want to say hi to everybody who's coming to hang out with us in the chat while we discuss the book. Good to see you guys. Thank you. I want to make sure did anybody have any questions? I'm looking.
They
really
did
quick.
not. We've been chatting,
right,
complimenting Ben on his linguistic prowess, and then Tiffany came in and Barrett said goals for me walking, which I haven't even hit a mile yet. Yeah, I'm at 0.84.
You'll get there. Okay. Any thoughts on the show without any other spoilers, just on the show before we move on to the next is the kitchen sink and everything in the next section. We good?
Mm-hmm.
We ready? Okay. Awesome. All right. So comparing the book to the show, thoughts on the world, characters, and execution. Who wants to go first? What do we think about how they brought it to life?
I thought it was great. So world building, if you watch the making of, they actually had like a screen, like not projection or whatever, but it was a screen to create the depth of the woods, and it actually helped even the actors talked about how it helped immerse them in the environment. So it wasn't just a green screen that would be imposed later. No, they could see the woods and interact appropriately and stuff. And so I think that really helped these kids who I will at least say this is their biggest acting gig, if not their first. And that probably definitely helped them bring out the sides that they needed. I also think the kids were selected great. I liked the diversity, not just in ethnicity and stuff, but even just size. Like Zeus's daughter, she could be an Amazon and everything. And I mean that in like the best compliment. Like I love to see that representation of not just a tiny little girl that can beat up people. Be like, no, kids come in different shapes and sizes. Let's let them be represented. Even the just the simple, like what a camp would have, they would have a series of chainmail, I guess. So like, and because safety first, but hey, go out there and beat each other up. And the clicks, and that this goes back to how well the writing is. The clicks that would occur makes complete utter sense. Okay. And then they did make changes, but for me, luckily, it had been so long since I read the book that I didn't catch up on them right away. So watching it almost from a fresh perspective, it made logical sense of how certain things unfolded. Yeah,
I will agree. I actually, I told my husband this over the last few days. I'm like, I've actually got to go back because I don't remember what was different when because I also had read it like, I don't know what, 12, 14, oh my gosh, 14 years ago now. So it'd been a long time. So when I was watching it, I was like, this feels like it's going exactly like the book. And I'm like, and I remember thinking, what's different? So when I was reading it, I was like, was that a little bit like the changes were subtle and necessary? When there were a couple like there were a handful that I caught. I'm like, okay, that was different, but nothing like, I feel like if you're one of those people that you like your adaptations to be really, really close, this is, especially compared to some of the other ones that we've done, this one was much closer. Like, not exact. There are some changes, and you'll notice them, especially if you're reading and watching very closely together. So there are changes there, but if you've been away from it a while, you might catch a hand, like just a couple, and be like, "What was that? Was that how that was?" But it did seem to follow closely. I think like the amount of time we spend in certain places, we only had so many episodes, but you could tell reading it that they spent more time, you know, at the academy, more time in the camp. There were some things that the training that was done, the sword fighting. I remember reading it and I'm like, wait, I know that we got that. And it's because I was like, oh, that was in the flashback, right before the big reveal. Um, and I was like, oh, okay, that's why. That's why. So it worked. Things that were different seemed to work. But I do remember just feeling like I would have liked to spend more time, and I didn't understand the timing as well in the show as I did in the book. Like, you could tell he's at the school for this much time. It felt like boom, he's in the school, everything goes down. Now he's at the camp, everything goes down. They have the one competition and then they're off. You know what I mean? So I didn't it felt more like this is all happening immediately in the show than it did in the book. I'm not mad at it though, but it did feel like it's like happening, whereas like it felt like the same amount of time as each of the little battles trials that they encountered, where I feel like in the book you could tell that this is a stretch of time that this is happening.
Was there anything anyone was like most excited to see them portray on screen? Like for me, it was the Lotus. Like I really wanted to see that portrayal because I feel like that's where the movie failed. And so I was like, come on, redemption.
Nice. So did it work for you with the way that they did the way it was done in the show?
I feel like it was better than the movie, but that when it comes to that scene specifically, book all the way.
I feel you. Who wants to go next?
Guess it's my turn. So yeah, I really like the characters and their portrayals. It was fun how we start off in the camp and we're like, oh, we're about to meet the camp counselor who's going to be this, irresponsible adult and whatever, and then flash to Jason Mantzoukas, and I laughed with my wife at that moment.
Yeah. That was so perfect.
Yeah. Let's see here. The execution was really well done. Though the world building was phenomenal. I don't really have too much to say on that. I think the moments that they added between Percy and his mom started getting a little bit too sappy, but I can understand that different people like different things from the show, and this gives him a much stronger connection to want to go on his journey in the first place, whereas in the book it was kind of just, oh, she's my mom, so I have to go save her. Here it's actually, oh, they have a connection, and so now I need to go save her. So it gave a little bit more substance there.
Yeah. I will say with my oldest son, the first thing that he noticed that I thought I'd go ahead and bring up, he thought that the stepdad was done much better in the show, because he felt like in the book, even though there was a reason why she's with such a sleazy kind of guy, that he's like, but why would she pick someone who's potentially like abusive in that way? Like, I understand you need a greasy kind of funky aura, but not, even though Percy was gone a lot, still when he was there, and also with her, because they allude to that he might be a little on the abusive with the mom as well. Why would you pick that guy versus someone who's just maybe a little sleazy but maybe lazy? So he actually really liked the way, not that he liked the stepdad, he liked the portrayal of the stepdad better, where she was still in control, like, but she needs this kind of sleazy guy around.
Yeah, but in the show, did they ever actually explicitly say that they needed him around because the smell dissuades all
I
the
don't
other
think they
elements?
did.
They
I think
didn't.
that's just
Yeah.
something I remembered.
Mm-mm.
So I sorry if you were watching but never read the book. There's a reason why she picks a guy like that, because
Hey,
otherwise
we
you're like,
said
why
full
would you?
spoilers. Full
Yeah,
Yeah, it is
spoilers.
full spoilers. It is full spoilers. So like, why would you pick this guy? There is a reason. I do wish that they would have explained it, because it makes sense. I mean,
Yeah.
it makes sense. It's just not that guy from the book. Like,
Yeah,
he's
because in the show, like the mom seemed a lot stronger and in control,
Yeah.
and in the book she wasn't, because like she was being abused by Gabe in the book. Because I think there was a scene where he hit her, and then I forgot Percy. I don't know if it was in the middle or at the end, but Percy like asked her like, "Why are you with this guy who hits you?" And like I don't know, there's like it was a different mom in the book than it was in the show.
I definitely like the portrayal of the mom in the show. Like
Yeah,
that.
I liked it. Yeah.
She's embracing the suck, but the benefit, she knows the benefit of it, and like the greater picture of it.
Yeah. But I do wish it would have been mentioned like why she was with Gabe.
Yeah, because that's an excellent. I like that. That is a good reason. But so yeah, but I think he still meets a similar fate in the end. In the end, you know,
And
he
we
gets
shall
shot by Medusa.
rejoice.
Yeah, he's gone.
I
Anybody
don't know why,
else?
but I can't help but compare the series to Game of Thrones, and I think it's just because it's another world and everything, and it's just I'm hoping that Game of Thrones is continues to be the example of what not to do for other shows that want to take such a huge undertaking of a series, a beloved series, like with a following already, and then let's make it a show. Like I hope, I feel like they did good with the first season, and I hope future seasons continue that track. Also, upside though, Percy Jackson, the whole series is finished, so that's helpful.
Yeah,
we're not expecting writers to go rogue here or anything.
Yeah, and I think, do you think it helps that Rick Riordan was able to have a hand in the input?
Absolutely, because like
all writers, all authors should have like that
absolutely
input on their shows or movies.
Well, if you think about it, as authors, like they normally know way more than what they put on the page. There's like scenes that were cut that they really wanted to flesh out, but it just didn't make sense for the logic. So having that knowledge of this outside character development, which, by the way, Riordan, I always want to say
Riordan,
whatever, the author of Percy Jackson, he fleshes out every single character. Every single character, you can pick out their motivation and why, and no matter how big or small they are. Like even the Furies and such, like you knew why, what drove them and such. And so that's why I think every author should be on the screen. And I think it helped in this situation too. Unless they just had them there for, clout or something. And then they were like, yeah, great idea. Do it the other way.
Well, it is always a bad sign when the creators step away from it. Something's coming out soon where the original creators walked off, and everyone's like, "Oh, that's a terrible sign."
That is a bad sign.
I think that happened with Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Which
I think they walked away from.
That one came out okay, but yeah.
But
there was another one that's coming out in like March or April, maybe.
That'll be interesting. I think I will say the creators, like, we got to give respect to them and listen to what they have to say. And just because writing movies and shows are a different medium than writing doesn't mean you can skip certain things, such as character development or explaining why the hell we're with an abusive guy.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So while we're doing the comparisons, we're going to touch on really quick that movie. So I did not even watch the whole first movie. I remember I was like, oh, this is, maybe the kids will like it. And I think I left halfway. I cannot remember much except for that. Who are these adults playing these kids? And why are they still like bad child actors if they're not even children? Like I felt like I couldn't even give them the grace on that, and which I felt bad because then I was like, are they children? And they just don't look. And it turns out no, they were older kids or 20 or something.
I mean, I've seen high school plays that had better acting. Like, it was just it's that whole like when you smile without including your eyes type thing. Like, they weren't there. It's like they were holding back or something. Like someone taught them like don't be over the top. You'll be a caricature. And it's like, yeah, but also don't be on the other side where you don't show emotion. Like, you're just not moving and or going, there is the way. Like, deadpan is not great.
Yeah, no.
And the only thing I can say on the movie's benefit is it had what, an hour and a half, 2 hours to tell a story that the show was able to do in 8 hours. So they had to condense a lot down. But like you said, the plot was off, the characters were off, the CGI was off, like every single possible thing that could go wrong did in the movie.
Yeah. That was CGI I did not like. And I think that's where I'm in agreement with everybody else. It really felt like
we're talking when it came out.
Yeah.
When it came out, it was bad CGI, by the way. I just want to add that point. Not like looking back now.
Not like now.
No.
Yeah, which obviously there would be some.
We're not through the lens of today, but all right, sorry, continue.
I was like, it felt like they were just in a room, and they felt like they were in a room with props, like OG Star Trek style, but with some glowing. I was just not feeling it. I was like, I'm not gonna watch this. And this was one that my kids never asked to watch. I don't know. Were there sequels? Never asked to watch them. Never put this one. I think
there was a sequel. I think there was a second movie that came out, The Sea Monsters.
Never asked. They never asked for it. Never asked.
Which I heard was somehow even worse. Anything they could have fixed, like the acting skills, the money, everything just got worse.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Mm-mm.
I mean, I just saw Percy Jackson the musical. My local theater put it on, and it was really good. So I don't know how it compares to the movie, but it was great. The acting was great. The songs were great. Execution. It was a fantastic musical.
That's awesome. Wow. Because usually when something gets created into a musical, I'm like hesitant, but I'm glad that things are actually doing really well.
Yeah. Yeah. So was that only a local theater troupe, or are they traveling? Because if they're traveling, hey, you might want to check it out if it comes your way.
I don't know if it was just local, but if you see it in your local theaters, go see it.
All right. Any other thoughts on comparing the world building to how it came off from the book to the show? Excellent. Same.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, what were the changes? What were the changes that you guys noticed? Like for me, most of the changes that I noticed. Oh, and there goes Loki with thoughts. Were just like where things occurred, like the scene with the fight scene with the dog. What is it? Cerberus? I'm bad with the names. With the 3-headed dog. Just the placement of when things happen, when Poseidon acknowledges Percy. Any changes that stood out for you guys?
The Sally conversation with Poseidon in a restaurant, that really stood out.
Yeah.
That was fantastic. It was
that was where I teared up.
Percy's father acknowledging that he couldn't be there for his son and how impressed he was with the job that Sally was doing. Like that was one of the emotional cornerstones for the entire series.
That was a good scene. I was like,
and of course it's raining outside because why wouldn't it be?
It has to be.
Right.
I wrote it down. Okay, in the book, did they miss the deadline? Because that was one that stood out to me, was them missing the summer solstice deadline.
Mm-hmm.
And I really didn't understand why they made that change.
All it said was they were going to war, but there was no difference between them like preparing for war versus what happened in the book.
The war didn't happen, so I didn't understand why they had to miss the deadline and then him have to be like, but why are you going to still do the war?
Oh yeah, that's one of the things that's one of the things I wanted to go check on, and I missed that one. Yeah,
because like he didn't fail his quest. He made the quest. He made it at the deadline. So I didn't understand why they made that change in the show.
Yeah.
One thing that I had to reread because it's been so long since I've read the books, but I looked up comparisons, is at the beginning scene where he is, Percy's fighting Mrs. Dodds, it was actually in private instead of public.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like Percy was thrown the pen that became the sword, versus it was more in the show, it was more public, which actually created a whole other thing of like, no one saw this, which I actually thought was
like
cool,
that.
it was, and then it was almost an accidental death on Percy's part, but I like that. I'm like, this kid has no clue who he is and what he's capable of. I don't want him to be like intrinsic, like in his muscles memory, like I know what to do. No, have him like just accidentally stumble into being awesome for a bit. Okay.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah, I did like at the end the way that Annabeth overhears what's going on. I felt like that made that scene a little bit more dramatic when is it not Gabe? Gabe is the stepdad. Yeah, when Luke leaves, and that made it more dramatic, and I liked that she gets to have that moment where they, she's coming kind of like face to face with, oh my gosh, you're like a brother to me, and you're kind of betraying us for this. So I did like that. It was good drama added, versus her just, you get in the book where Percy's recovering. Both were fine, but I just like that she got to have that acknowledgement moment.
Yeah, and then Luke didn't try to kill him in the show, like with the scorpion.
Yeah, which makes you feel like Luke's a little bit maybe more redeemable. Like,
in the show,
like, come on, join us, Percy. Where like, no, Luke wanted him dead.
Yeah,
but Luke's not redeemable. He's trying to kill him, and would have if the nymphs hadn't carried him away. Percy wouldn't have made it. So yeah, there were some liberties that were taken, but they were minor changes, and I think that they worked for on screen. All right, anybody else? Then we'll go into best and worst changes. I will say that one of my favorite changes, probably the one that you guys were talking about while I was dealing with Loki. I liked getting that moment with Sally and Poseidon. That was an excellent moment. Probably the worst change is probably for me that something that couldn't be helped is that I would have liked to have more time in the camp. And I would have liked to have those moments with Luke early on, not just in the flashback, more training scenes and just more training in general before the quest. So I would have liked to have a little bit more of that, maybe an extra episode, so that we could feel the time stretch a little bit better, because it really felt super, super condensed. So basically I just wanted more show, and I would have been happy with them finding a way to get another episode in there.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any favorite or least favorite changes?
Wait, there's an end credit scene I'm reading about?
Yeah. Gabe
missed that.
Yeah.
Medusa head.
Oh, you did the Medusa head, yeah.
And then he turns to stone.
Yeah.
Because that was different, because Percy went back home first and then went back to camp to see his mom
Yeah.
in the book.
Yeah. And then they kind of got rid of Gabe
Yeah.
with the Medusa head. And then she's like selling her art in the museum and all that cool stuff. It's like, oh yeah, good riddance, Gabe. Where I think it was more accidental when he's just opens the thing and it's like, it's so like, whoops, bye, Gabe. Bye.
Yeah.
You weren't that great anyway, so.
I will say the actor played that part very well because I hated the guy.
Yeah.
I have to remind myself when I hate a character, it's because of the actor, not don't hate the actor.
Yep. All right. Anybody else want to throw in their favorite or least favorite changes?
It's not a least favorite change, but it was a change that I noticed. I think when they were in the Lotus Casino, that they seem to have in the show, they seem to have knowledge that they would lose their memories. I didn't think they did in the book. I think they were just like playing games and then like, weren't we supposed to be doing something?
They stumbled upon the Lotus Hotel in the book, whereas in the movie, they actually had a specific purpose to go get Hermes, which
and Hermes wasn't there. So
yeah. So I feel like in the book, they were going along, and then I think Percy more like remembers, I don't know, from school or because of all the learning that they told him that the stuff that you're learning is important for your life. And he's like, why? It's Greek mythology. But then him kind of like, oh yeah, I think if we eat this stuff, we're going to like really. And so then he was cognizant of every time he's feeling like, yeah, I just want to sit here and chill. Wait, no, don't do that. Or, oh, this looks good. And it's like a couple times, like he says, he catches his friends almost tempted to grab a piece of fruit and eat it. So it was more like they realized it, and he realized it, and he's articulating to us, the reader, that I realize that this is what's happening, so we better not eat anything.
Yeah.
So I think that was clever the way that they did that, but that was definitely different.
Sorry. Mama Maggie asked a question, was Uma Thurman cast as Medusa again? No. But if you did watch, I don't know the actress's name, but if you did watch The Flash on CW, she plays
that's her. Yeah, she's really good.
I don't know what else she's in, though.
She was in Black Sails.
Wasn't Zeus in that too? Or not Zeus, Poseidon?
I think he was. Yes. Yes, he was.
Like he was the main character.
Yes, he was the main character. Which pirate was that? Because I always but yeah, he was the one of the main characters on that, and they were both in that. Yep.
Side note, over the past week, I learned that Medusa in tattoos is a sign of overcoming SA. And I was like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I will say, what I like about these stories, aside from all the Greek mythology, Roman mythology, is that you see connection, at least, especially in the show, a connection between Poseidon and Sally. And instead of the normal of like, yeah, we just grabbed a random human, impregnated her, and left. Like, it was like there was actually something there, but it's understood they can't be together.
Yes. And her name is Jessica Parker Kennedy. I think she just recently got married. And I'm looking for Poseidon because I know, I feel bad when I know the actors and I just cannot think of what their names are.
Black Sail. She was Max, apparently. And I have no idea who that is. I remember watching Black Sails, but I have no idea.
She worked in the courthouse, basically. Let me see.
Oh, apparently she was in 36 episodes.
Toby,
so she's big in the show.
Is that?
Yeah, she was. Oh yeah, Toby. Yes. Thank you.
Welcome.
Excellent actor. I've enjoyed them both since Black Sails. I think Black Sails might be the first thing that I saw both of them in. And then I went on from there to watch them in other things.
Yeah, it was Captain Flint.
Yes, Flint. All right. Let us go to, we're almost done, guys. Da-da-da. Our final thoughts as we wrap it up. Thank you guys for coming to hang out with us. Final thoughts on Percy Jackson. As far as the book, the first book and the second book, I thought were excellent. From what I remember of the second book, I would say definitely read them. And the show was excellent. The whole family, ranging in ages, everybody enjoyed it. So definitely, if it's your cup of tea, this is a good one. Anybody else got any final thoughts?
I'm excited for
Ben?
season 2. Hopefully. Is there a
Hopefully.
season already?
Yes. They announced it as soon as the season was over. So,
So yeah, I thought it was great. I'm going to finish reading the series and I'm watching it as well. So
nice. All right.
Ben.
Natalie, any final thoughts?
Okay.
Go read the books.
Yeah. So usually when you're in this realm of there's books and movies, you're like, which one first? If you're the type of person that kind of can't imagine someone in your head and you kind of need to see an actor, watch the show first, then read the books. There's enough difference between them that you'll still be sitting on the edge of your seat excited. But it is still good. Also, the other question is, will I watch season 2? Will I read the next book? After you read and watch the first, yes, you will. You just, you can't not.
Yep, totally agree. Going to keep reading and keep watching. All right. Coming up next, you guys, we're going to be doing Holes in April. We have Laura's going to join us for that one. And in June, we're going to be doing Bridgerton Season 3, which is going to be book 4, Colin and Penelope's story. So if you want to come join us for that, we've got 2 guests on the line for that one. And Zara said she is a definite, so I can definitely tell you she will be there. And we also have Des, who also wants to join us for Bridgerton. So if the dates all work out, fingers crossed, we'll have 2 guests. Yeah, so that is the plans for the future.
And if you notice, we're skipping May because Bridgerton comes out in May, but then finishes coming out in June.
Yeah, so we're gonna take a little break and enjoy. Who are we kidding? I'm gonna binge it. I'm gonna binge the first half, and then I will also binge the second half. I'm not gonna take my time.
I can't wait. If it's out, I'm watching it.
If they were dropping the whole thing, I would just watch the whole thing. But it's fine. They will break it up. It's fine.
I'm gonna binge the first half and then be pissed until the second half comes out.
Exactly.
For anyone, so this is season 3 of Bridgerton, but it's book 4 of the Bridgerton series. Just to make that clear, I think it's Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, in case anybody wanted to read ahead of time or read between the episodes. Who knows?
Absolutely. And one more thing I do want to remind you, if you are reading the Bridgerton books, if you read the prologues, the epilogues, excuse me, if you read the epilogues, they are spoilerish. So just so you know, you might want to read, if you want to read the whole thing, read them all and then go back and read the epilogues for those.
Unless you have like an earlier edition of the book, in which case it won't have these epilogues at the end.
All righty. That is all we have for you guys. Thank you so much for coming to hang out with us. Thank you, Morgan, for joining us. Morgan was an OG way back in the day. So it's always nice when Morgan comes to hang with us and talk about books and shows. So thank you all so much. Thank you, everybody who came and hung out with us live in the chat as we reviewed the book and the series. I'm going to find my banner so that we can all say goodbye. We will see you next month. Bye, friends.